Welcome to Press Start Turbo. This episode, we're diving into the world of indie horror games and their history. Then we spoke to the game.
I was making ghost sound. Keep going.
Oh, ooh.
I thought you were yawning.
Yeah, so did I.
We're starting. Billy's already bored. He's like, indie horror.
Good.
Who are we interviewing?
Then we spoke to the game director over at Distortion, a new indie studio based out of Japan, working on their debut game, Nightmare Operator. And joining me today, we have Billy, Brendan, and K-Dash. Right off the bat, you might notice in the time code that it's a bit of a shorter episode. We're changing around the format a little bit. We're axing the second half and we're expanding the cell. So
Growing pains, my guy.
Pains. Let us know what you think in the comments. And
if it's negative, keep it to yourself.
We're not changing again.
We're not changing again. Speaking of the cell is now expanded to a full section. So instead of going, shut the fuck up after 1 minute, we'll just let people talk about what they want. Starting with our guest.
Oh, shoot.
K-Bash, what do you want to talk about?
You know what? Let's go and talk about triangle strategy or tringle stringle.
All right,
Okay.
let's go.
Because the game launched however long ago, I think it's been 2 or 3 years, and I just ducked it because I'm like, I don't have time for RPG. I have stuff to do. This shit's like 40 hours minimum. Plus, you got to run the routes, or else if you don't, Christ alive, if you don't run all those routes, you will not understand the media, and you will be killed. So anyway, we have to do all of that. So God help me. Anyway, I'm just picking up now casually, just.
Yeah.
Because it's Matsuno-esque, it's FFT-esque, it's playing at that tradition.
Oh, yeah.
And so we appreciate that. We like hopping back into something that's playing to our interests.
It's I'm going to be honest, I don't know shit from fuck when it comes to triangle strategy. I only played Octopath. I'm guessing this is their Final Fantasy Tactics, their job system question mark? No.
I just love the naming scheme of like Squeenix RPGs.
Squeenix RPG.
The amazingly terrible name for marketing, right? Like triangle strategy conveys nothing to a buyer. It's like,
Is it even relevant in the game lore? Like
they use triangles?
You're finding the triangle strategy?
So it's because there are 3 warring nations at disparate points on the map that make a and it's like, okay. We really thought about this.
Okay, it's instead of a love triangle, it's a war triangle. I get it.
It's better than the explanation I had in my head. I thought it was called triangle strategy because an isometric camera is kind of like a triangle, I guess.
It's called triangle strategy because you turn triangle degrees and walk away.
Triangle degrees.
I love to be like in the fucking room coming up with the name and just like one of the game directors just draws a triangle and like fucking throws the whiteboard marker around and leaves.
Bravely default Octopath Traveler triangle strategy.
Yeah. They're just drawing shapes. Just like, this is
Bro, they're mad-libbing. They're just mad-libbing words together. Just like throw them in there, see what happens.
I mean, that's like it's like mindstorming, you know? They're mindstorming video games.
Yeah.
Mindjacking,
like the Xbox 360 video game Mindjack.
The problem is that instead of focus testing, they just went with the first round of that. So like,
I mean, that was the prototype name. I remember that. They were calling it like
Project Triangle,
Project Triangle Strategy, and everybody was like, "That's dog shit." And then they were like, "Actually, that's the final title." Fuck you.
They won in the budget. But like the thing, okay, so the game is like, I have bitched forever about the war story genre because I love war stories in media, etc. I love FFT. Sure, that's great. I was even bitching about it in Unicorn Overlord because I didn't think they went as far as they could have for people who clearly cared about Matsuno's, like what he established, Ogre Battle, etc. That's fine though. New writers, new devs, sure, or leads, project leads. This game has now kind of hauled the mirror up in front of me, and that's the issue. Is that like I'm like, okay, it's really texty, right? Like there's a ton of text, ton of fucking lore, ton of this and that, interactions with characters. Like you get everyone's perspective is on the table, and I'm like, damn, I have to really like pay attention. And you don't really get that in FFT, right? You play that game, and you're just like, shit is just happening, and you're in medias res, and it's just like, okay, I have to like, this guy killed that guy, okay, and who is he with, and this. Yeah, and you put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And this has created an issue where I'm like, maybe it's possible to have too much to actually parse to keep the flow going to actually make this like a 10 out of 10 kind of game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to parse this on a second pass. I'm just going to fucking run it hard. Like that dramatic immediacy is gone.
Yeah. Would you say it's like there's just like too many fucking...
There's a lot going on.
Not too many, because that's not what I mean, but there's just way too much going on.
Personally, yes.
It kind of muddies the actual main plot.
Yeah, because FFT, right, is like very much it's like you could put it on a stage, like a Shakespeare play.
It's shrimple.
Yeah, but in this shit, they want you like to talk to your advisor and talk to all your friends and like determine what your affirmations are as a leader and understand all these things. And it's like, okay, great. But now I've like parsed like fucking, 3,000 lines of text before even one battle. And those are chunky and long. Unlike FFT, where you can smack a dude for half his health right on the head. Like, that shit's fun.
Oh, it's one of those tactics RPGs where it's like, and then I attack you, and then you attack me, and then I attack you, and then you attack me, and it's like fucking never ends.
Yeah.
As somebody who only has experience in Tactics Ogre,
that's not what I expected you to say. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, Tactics Ogre and the Yu Yu Hakusho Tactics game on the Game Boy Advance.
Okay, that's what you were gonna say. Fucking, I thought you were actually talking about Tactics Ogre. I was like,
I love Knights of the Lotus.
That's not it.
It's Oh wait, yeah, it's Tactics Ogre.
Was it actually?
Because Ogre Battle is different.
It's an actual.
Yeah, Ogre Battle is different. Tactics
but
Ogre is
guy.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced kind of core. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I always get confused. Why would you have two ogres?
That's a great question.
One thing for like a strategy game, does it have because this is one that like as somebody who like I play those games for me and only for me. I don't like make content or stream them. I keep those in my like head. For a game like that, does it have like, this is a weird question, does it have weird units? Because I remember like octopi and like creatures in like Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics.
This is
this
like straightest fantasy. This is like straight fantasy medieval.
I haven't encountered anything weird.
My lord, the peasants.
Yeah, they sometimes have like, it's like mages and dragons. Are they dragons? I don't even think there are.
I don't even know I'm not that far yet.
I don't know if it's in the same world as Octopath, but Octopath has like some creatures, but it's very, very traditional.
It's the boring creatures where it's like, here's your dragon, here's your chimera, here's your
kobold.
There's the weirdest thing is that there's a bunch of pink-haired people, and they just have pink hair like as a race, and it's like, okay, they're the pink hairs.
I was gonna, dude. There's
just like Twitter.
It's very obvious that I'm gonna. It's very obvious that I'm going to talk about this later, but Metaphor does the same thing where all the different tribes have very, very slight variations, but because you're like
a red hair, you're like fucking red hair.
Fucking red hair. Fucking
disgusting.
Put the gingers in the ginger death machine. And it's like, okay, calm down, brother.
When you get to the triangle battles, like when you're out of like kind of the lore dumping, when you're triangle battling, like how long does a bout of combat take?
I think 20 minutes per round.
Okay. Round?
Which isn't that bad. Yeah, it feels longer than it sounds, because 20 minutes isn't that bad for an SRPG, I would say, but it's because like the hits are so piddly and the damage is so tight that you can lose like 3 dudes in a match, and no permadeath, that's fine.
Okay.
But like you will lose some dudes and you will, expend your resources, and it feels so back and forth. It's like, fuck, this never ends. I'm gonna lose. Oh, fuck.
But is it like good tension though? Because sometimes
it is.
Sometimes they do that in a good way where it's like, oh, this is good this is good back and forth tension. But other times it's literally just like,
no, I totally feel you.
I'm thinking of this fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! GameCube game I had as a kid that was like an RTS.
The Yu-Gi-Oh one.
War of the War of the Roses. No,
I know what you're talking
What's it
about.
called?
I've played War of the Roses.
they had like the Yu-Gi-Oh characters as like Joanna of Arc or whatever. I can't remember. It was super fucking weird.
They were like the
It's
two
strange.
historical groups in that war. So it's like Buddy's Henry
it's
Tudor,
so
and it's like,
weird.
what the fuck?
Yeah, it's super weird, but it was like that I remember played exactly like this, where it was just back and forth, where it was just boring as hell.
Yeah. I don't think it's that bad. It's kind of like deflating because you'll like lose your main pro tag and there's no like,
Yeah.
like there's no punishment associated with it. They just go away for the battle and it's like, man, like I kind of like it how like, you got to keep Ramza alive in FFT or whoever the fuck. Like,
Yeah.
there's like a protective element to that. That's fine. It's really just a minor thing and I would never mention in a video. That's all.
Well, that's like really chess core is like risk and
Yeah.
reward. Like you like being able to maneuver it's chess core. It's chess maxing.
It's so chess core. You had a chess match.
Well, that's the foundation of
the foundation of a good tactics game is how close to chess.
Yes.
They put
Oh God.
there are chessboards in game. Like they rendered out chessboards.
I guess that's true. You're 100% correct.
You want to be able to use your cool guy, but also you want to be able to know, like, if I get him too hard in the stink,
Yeah.
get him in the pink, like, if he's destroyed, I fucking fail, I got to redo.
Brendan, why would you say it like that?
Because I say words the way that I do. You know me.
You painful little fuck.
I know.
Jesus.
I've probably yapped for a bit long about Stringle. We can
Stringle.
sorry, a pyramid scheme. We can move on.
I was gonna say I was gonna talk about a JRPG as well. So maybe
do we want to front load it with JRPGs?
Yeah, JRPG.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
You know
do we
what?
want to give you some
do we
spacing
wanna
before
do
you
this?
start gooshing and booshing about metaphor?
Oh yeah, do we want to fucking literally alienate everybody who does not give a fuck?
I played Tales of Symphonia on the PlayStation 2. I was emulating the other day, and
I played Tales from Graces.
Anyway.
I'm playing East.
Oh fuck.
All right, we're gonna put a buffer in the JRPG chat. I played Silent Hill 2 by Bloober Team, and I was wrong. I thought that the best of this game could be was mediocre. And I'm not gonna talk spoilers. I'll talk a little bit about how like I feel about the game, but I don't want to delve into like story spoilers. So if you haven't played Silent Hill 2, or if you plan on playing the Bloober Team remake, it's good. If this was a standard video game and I was to give it some kind of arbitrary number to determine the value of the game inherently to me as the gamer, I would give it like an 8. Without it being attached to Silent Hill 2, like in its own separate vacuum. Being attached to Silent Hill 2, I would still give it an 8. I think it's a pretty faithful recreation, even though that some of the melee combat acts like Callisto Protocol, and I was consistently waiting for the two-headed wife to pop out and bop me. I still play through the game like I do a lot of Silent Hills. Silent Hill is a game series that like I make sure that I play in a metered experience, otherwise it becomes a hyperfixation, and I have to have that healthy boundary with some games because I know I'll love them too much. But this was a great addition to Silent Hill. I really didn't think the Bloober Team was going to do it after the Medium. The Medium was such a gosh darn
piece of shit. You can
garbage
say it.
mess.
You can say it.
With a really cool concept and some really
cool
neat bits,
concept.
but then they had the giant pedophile ghost and also pushing your sister off the docks. I
God.
played Blair
For
Witch.
people that don't know anything about that game, they might think
I was like,
it's
what the fuck?
hyperbole. No, it's not. It's like straight up. That game literally says you should kill yourself.
Did you? This is just a little wee sidebar about the Medium. Did you guys know that they patented the
Yes,
split screen fucking shit? So no other
split screen technology, yay.
It's dimension, like it split dimension or
split
whatever.
dimension. So basically, the characters in the same place, but they're like between two different worlds. And you're showing them at the same time. No other studio can do that because they've did a patent on it, which is awesome.
The worst part is that genuinely one of the coolest things about that game.
It's the coolest part about that game.
Probably the only cool part.
Really? I think my only misgiving about going into Silent Hill 2 and playing it and beating it, my only real problem with it is I think the melee combat could have been done a little bit better. I don't like that it's, dodge 'ems, hit 'em, dodge 'ems, hit 'em, dodge 'ems, hit 'em. It's a neat little thing, but it's press B when they hit them, press B when they hit them.
Did you
instead of holding left like Callisto Protocol?
Did you play Alan Wake 2?
I did, yeah. It's well, Alan Wake 2 Alan Wake 2 is a little bit different because in Alan Wake 2, I went in it. So I have two mindsets for games like this, which we'll talk about later. I have the mindset of Silent Hill and the mindset of Resident Evil. Both of them, I make sure to hold on to as much ammunition as possible. In Resident Evil games, I use the ammunition when I can, when I feel like it. In Silent Hill, I never use a gun. In Alan Wake, which is more Resident Evil core in the actual gameplay with the inventory being the way it is, I used guns whenever I could. I would still press B to dodge, but because I was using the gun, using the flashlight, there's that third extra dimension of using your flashlight in Alan Wake. It was more intuitive for me because of that. And so I wasn't worried about like conserving ammo. In a Silent Hill video game, I never use a gun except for on boss fights. That's like a clear, I do not do it.
Yeah.
And because I went in with that older mindset, I should have just been using my dang guns. Eventually, 3/4 the way through the game, I started like using my pistol and my shotgun, and I was like, I should have just been shooting the whole time, man. Right. I had 400 bullets going into the hotel. Like I was like, what the hell?
Oh my god!
I had 400 pistol bullets because I was only using the melee combat. And I will say, going in, if you try to only melee combat, the game is worse for it.
Right.
It just is.
That's actually interesting because to me, like I haven't picked it up yet, but when I was gonna pick it up, the first thing I would have thought about doing is never use ammo.
Like honestly,
because it's Silent Hill, you know. Silent Hill is that way.
I would still recommend to go melee for a while just to build up a surplus of ammo, like you're gonna have to use that split second critical thinking to determine, hey, do I want to use my pistol? Do I want to use my big billy club? What do I want to do here?
That's
that's your name.
Yeah, chug a few kombuchas, get your fucking health back after getting hit a few times.
Take a couple. That's the other thing is changing ampules to syringes. I'm still a little bit like,
that's weird as fuck.
I totally get it. It's more modern. I totally get them changing one of the health items and nobody knows what the hell an ampule is. I just like that being part of Silent Hill where it's like, crack open your ampule and utilize it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would have loved to have like a fucking high quality breaking the ampule fucking animation than just like sticking a syringe in.
That's the thing that I wanted to talk about next after conversing about the gameplay a little bit is the aesthetics of it. I don't quite enjoy the first big level after the town, but everything after that, the aesthetics start to get better and better and better. The over-the-shoulder camera, sometimes in my brain, I'm old man core, and I start getting a little fuddy-duddy. I'm like, I miss my dang tank controls and my spin'ems around when I hold the left on the D-pad and my character rotates in place, and like, gosh dang it, I just want that again. I miss my spin'ems, dang it.
I miss my spin'ems.
Well, that's something that I love about tank controls is holding the D-pad left and your character just and they just rotate in place. But aesthetically,
'tis pleasant.
Without spoilers and boilers, it genuinely gets better. Like it starts off, I think, at like a 6 or a 7, and it gets fucking way up there as you go in. It's dark, it's gritty. One thing that I thought was interesting was how this is something that we talked about, I think, in the last episode regarding vis-a-vis yellow paint. Is how?
Oh God, no, don't.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna bring it up into the big thing. But I was just thinking, like, how in Silent Hill 2, I never got lost in Silent Hill like the original ones because of the fixed camera, because of the way the game is designed. Every area is unique. Like I may get locked into a bathroom and like confuse it for a different bathroom, maybe, but otherwise, like I kind of knew where I was going to go looking at the map. Like, oh, I've been in this room. Like it sticks in my head. Like they're landmarks. In the modern with a fixed camera, the downside is some things bleed together. So it took me a bit longer to kind of orient myself in the space whenever I'm in a level or in an area. And I'd get a little lost sometimes and backtrack too much, kind of like your grandpa without his Google Maps. I would get lost in the old folks' home and I'd have to wait for the nurse to come out and bring me the wheelchair. And I don't know if that's more of a brain elasticity is falling away because I'm getting older and older, or more of a, there are some levels where there aren't landmarks where I can point it out and go, I need to go here. This is the hallway to get to here, hallway to get to here, hallway to get to here.
And
that also gets better. Well, they have white, they don't have yellow paint, but they do have white cloth that'll tell you what areas you can traverse or go through. One of the new additions too is like being able to break down walls. I like these changes to make the game feel a little bit less chunky and clunky. Like the boss fight changes, I think, are also for the better. It is in general, I think, an overall different experience. I enjoyed it. I liked it. and I'm probably going to go back and replay it to get some of the other endings. I would recommend picking it up if you like Silent Hill. You may get a little fuddy-duddy if you're a Silent Hill diehard and you're like, where's my damn polygons? What do you mean he doesn't sound like shit anymore?
What do you think about this being like a first experience for someone getting into Silent Hill? Like, because I haven't played a single Silent Hill before, but I don't know if
I think it's
go back or
fine. I think it's fine for somebody experiencing Silent Hill for the first time, but I would recommend going back and playing the original after you play the remake to kind of like figure out the differences.
Play Silent Hill 3. Holy shit. This is the best one.
Well, if you play 3, you either play Silent Hill 2 and then you play 1 and 3, or you play 1 and 3 and then you play 2. Like, 2 is in itself disconnected from 1 and 3. 1 and 3 are connected.
I mean, ish.
No, 2 is not connected to 1 and 3, aside from the fact there's Silent Hill.
Yes, there is. That's not true.
It's not connected at all.
Yes, it is. I'm not getting into it.
It's witches versus the Nightmare Realm. It's completely different.
They're okay.
2 and 4 are connected. You fight me.
There are connections with 2 and the rest of the series.
I still like Silent Hill 2 Remake, though. I would recommend picking it up if it's something that you want to play. It's a more modern experience for a game that maybe needed it, depending on who you're talking to. I think it's good.
I mean, and the metaphor still comes through, and it's a ReFantazio of the old game. Am I right, Billy?
Man, you should really consider the news. What the hell was that?
That was a seamless segue.
You want me to? I can talk about metaphor. I have a lot to say about metaphor. Hopefully, you shut me up if I go too far. I will not go into spoilers. Obviously, the game literally just came out last Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been 1 week. It's only been 1 week. I'm about 30 hours in. I'm gonna start with the negatives because there are some.
Yeah, tell me why not to buy it.
The first hour of this game is genuinely awful.
Is it like standard JRPG, like takes a full hour to get to the title card? Here's your exposition dump. Here's your lore.
No, the title card is really quick. It's Cameron.
I've played the demo.
It's not that. It's that
it's structurally weird.
They didn't know how to start the story, so you go in and then your character is doing one thing, and then the game is like, "Oh, let's go backwards," and then you're like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're going backwards," and then the game's like, "Oh, let's go back forwards," and then we go back forwards, and then we go backwards again, and then we go forwards again, and then there's an unrelated scene, and this is like every 2 minutes they switch like timelines, and it's so fucking confusing.
It's like if Christopher Nolan directed a JRPG at the start. Like it's
like genuinely confusing, fucking super bad. You don't know why you're doing anything. All you know is that the king is dead, and that's it. And it's like it's ass. It truly is not a good start to the game. And I would say like the prologue is free, and it's the first 5 hours of the game. 3 hours? 4 hours?
No, 5
hours. Very 5 hours. It's substantial. It's like if you play the entire prologue, and you will get to the parts where the game fucking pulls the rug under you and is like, it gets really fucking meaty and really interesting. And I would say it's probably one of my favorite premises that Atlas has done for their JRPGs in recent memory. It's so weird, and I don't know where we're going anymore. I do have worries about the story, though, because there is one thing that it does do the fucking thing, a thing that I think is so corny, and it's that your main character has this fantasy novel about a perfect utopia, and it's very obvious that the perfect utopia that they're reading about is our real world, and it's really corny. And I
want to be able to go to the gas station and buy a big bag of Cheetos.
I'm interested that you don't like that, Billy, because I actually found that at least compelling from the prologue in the ways that I...
Oh, no, it's because I'm worried. This
shit gonna reverse isekai? Your guy's gonna wake up in Shibuya?
That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about stuff like that, and I'm worried about the fact that you can make the thing about our real world being a perfect utopia be really stupid.
Yeah, sure. But I think at least the way that they're framing it in the prologue, it seems like they're going to be like, they think it's a utopia, but what they're like idealizing is nationalism, right? And that's like...
Yeah, that's what I hope it does, but I don't know. That's the thing. I know Atlas, and I know that I played Persona, and I know that sometimes they really flub the fucking ending and the themes go out the window, especially Persona 5 does that.
It would be crazy if the racism bad game turned into a racism good game by the end. Like
about like 1 hour into the game, it does something. I won't spoil it because I think it's the most batshit reveal.
Yes. It's great. No, seriously. There is
it's so insane. You could never see no way to predict this. It's so fucking insane. It's so out of left field. It recontextualizes everything about the game, and every character is actually like, this has never happened before. What the fuck is going on? And the fact that even because this is a fantasy world that's not really traditional. Like, it's not like knights and armor. And I mean, it does have that, but it's so much more than that. And it goes really deep into really weird. It's just a weird fucking world. And it's not traditional JRPG stuff. I really like that they went and dug weird lore about it.
No, it's...
And then if those freaks think that what's happening is weird, it's weird, man.
It is funny, the whiplash of like things that the characters just like roll with that you're like, this is fucking strange. And then like the wildest thing happens and then all of the characters are just like, what the fuck? Like it's just
they're like, this is unprecedented and we don't know how to handle this, and it's fundamentally like the political discourse has changed fundamentally in the entire world of the
because they have these like fucked up creatures that just show up and they're like, oh, the humans, they're here, like, oh well, I guess they just came, they're around all the time, and you're like, this is like the weirdest fucking egg monster thing that I've seen.
It's the weird. It's like all based on like super weird paintings of like these monsters that have like little frogs that are like dancing on top of them, but it's one singular like entity.
It's that one painting of of hell, right?
That reveal is worth at least trying out the demo, because it's either going to hook you or it's going to make you say, holy shit, this is stupid, I'm out. And that's totally fine, because it doesn't get better than that. Or it doesn't get crazier than that, at least so far for me. It's one of the most empathetic games I've played in a while. There's one character in particular that talks about the death of his child, and there's an entire chapter of this game about like a parent losing their child. And man, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't cried at a fucking game in a really long time. It's really fucking well done. There's so much good stuff in this story right now, and it makes me really worried about them sticking the landing, because so far it probably outshines most of the other games or Atlas JRPG stories so far. When it comes to the combat though, holy shit, it's the best. It's the best. Like they take the Persona calendar system, and then they use the press turn. They use the press turn system, and they also include, instead of personas and demons, they include this job system that is extremely fucking modular.
It's kind of crazy in an 80-hour or like 100-hour JRPG, like how much choice you get even in the prologue. Like, it was like letting me pick fucking skills from other jobs and put them onto my, like, you know, it's like unlock healer, and it's like, oh, you've got a quest that you know, you should get it to this rank and then you'll get some stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh man, I don't want to play healer and not have my like move that I've been using the whole time. And then you go into it,
but
you can inherit it, and then suddenly you're just creating your own builds. It's great.
It's one of the best systems that they've ever made, because it's like flexible enough that you feel like you can adapt, but it's not too flexible where you can make a build that is fucked up broken. You always have, like, every archetype has its ups and downs, and sometimes you have to juggle whether or not the downs are worth it. It's very cool. The only thing that I wish they would let you do is, in the middle of combat, be able to change from one archetype to the other, because I don't know, I was leveling up another archetype, and then I go into, and my archetype has like 3 skills because it's not leveled up, and now I'm like in a boss fight and it's really not the best. Sometimes it can happen. I just wish you could use one turn to change archetypes, because I think it would be balanced enough to do that. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. I would recommend that people check out the demo, the prologue. It's just really good. And it might be the best Atlas JRPG that they've put out ever.
I also think like doing demos for JRPGs is such a good idea because there's like they can just like absolutely just not be for you, right? And having like 5 hours or so just to see the beginning, see if you're gonna gel with the story, the gameplay, etc., the world is just like really, really good. And I don't know, it's worth. It's free.
Yeah, it is. It's free. It's you will literally see everything within the first 3 hours. Like you're going to be able to, you're going to have party members, you're going to have your archetypes, and they even give you like a little taste of what the calendar system is like at the very, very end, so that you can like check out if you want to. It shows you what the persona system, like with the persona structure is like. It's cool. I like it a lot.
This is a spooky episode, so I wanted to talk about things coming back from the dead. And in which case, the first one is something we highlighted a bit before, which was the Humble Games publishing side getting decimated and like laid off. Out of that, a lot of the workers have come together, and the former company head, I believe, or leaders came together and they made a new publishing Good Games group.
Yes.
And they are going back and working with Ziff Davis and the Humble to publish or like continue supporting the teams, which is like really good. Like it also just like, I think this and the other thing that I'll get to in a second just kind of like shows how important it is, like the people and not like specifically the brand or the idea. You know, like these people did good work, and like I'm glad that at least some of them are able to keep doing it, and there's still that support for the studios.
Yeah.
But the other one, which is like the main one that's been happening recently, that I've been following along, and I imagine a lot of other people have, is the I never actually know how to say it. Zaum.
I don't know. I always in my head I say Zaum because
Zaum.
There's like a there's like a slash in there. Zaum.
After that studio dissolved quite infamously a few years ago.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, Zaum is the
they were the developer for Disco Elysium.
Yes,
and they had a big dispute with the owner, financiers. I don't know. There was a lot of drama. You guys can look it up. It's a bit too much to get into right now.
It's too much for us. Yeah, it's too much for us to get into.
But from that, there have now been 3 separate studios that have come forward with all touting like ex-developers on Disco Elysium, 2 of which are basically saying they're going to make a new Disco Elysium, but it's not it. One being Dark Math Games, which I think was the first one to announce, and they released like a trailer and screenshots, like a Steam page for the game called XXX Night Shift. And like, I mean, I'll just, if you look up like screenshots of that, you're like, okay, it's, you know, like clearly they're going for that style again. And then we've got 2 more, and it's kind of interesting because like it seems like the ethos for these studios really different. Like looking at them and like how they're going to try and like, you know, recapture or regroup. And that I guess depends on like who from the studio like got together.
Yeah.
The other one is Longdew, which is all we know about them is they're just making like a RPG game, like a story trail, like I imagine in the same style of Disco Elysium. And then the latest one that came out is called Summer Eternal, which is the most interesting to me, despite not actually saying what kind of game they're making or anything, because it's a worker co-op.
That's one thing that I did see that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's their model so far. All they've got online is just like their manifesto, and it seems like they're also putting forward the developers and who's actually working in the team.
Yeah,
which is
It's very much like an art.
Yeah, an art collective.
I think it's like an art collective owned by the artists.
Yeah, exactly. It's owned by the artists. They've like pretty transparent about like the studio architecture as well, like what the makeup of the ownership's going to be, like workers. Even there's like I think 5% of the studio is going to be player owned, which I thought was really interesting.
Player owned,
and I don't know how that's going to work out. So yeah, like the way that they're setting it up is like a non-profit organization, and then the membership is being accepted for like people who have bought their games. So if you like buy their games, you become part of their like 5% of shares, and then like collectively you can have a say in like what games they make and like feedback on them, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know how that's going to work out.
And this is a first in the industry.
Not worker co-ops, but
not worker co-op, but like player owned.
Yeah, I don't
is more what I'm talking about, because I've never heard of that before. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really,
because I am looking at it, and it says that the players, like the 5% final shares of the they're members of the board. Players, every player is a 5% of shares owner and member of the board. Wait.
Well, they become under the 5%. It's not like each person gets 5% ownership. That would be crazy.
Under the 5. No. There would not be enough shares.
Like for anyone who's played Disco Elysium, they're taking a lot of like, I guess, the political thought that was put forward in that game and put it into at least like
actual
practice, some might say. But yeah, it's interesting to see the different splinter groups. Like for gamers, I think this is a good thing, because now we've got 3 different fucking studios with talented people making stuff. So if it looks like, if you're sad about the fact that the Disco Elysium DLC and 2 got cancelled, I'm pretty sure, because there's nobody left to make it, that there's still going to be stuff coming out, and the people who actually made those games what they were are going to continue making stuff, which is like the important part, right? Like it's Zaum themselves, like as a whatever, didn't make the game. It's the people behind it, and they're still out there.
There was a post I saw that was saying that the Disco Elysium dev splitting up into 3 different dev studios is the most Disco Elysium thing to happen.
Yes, it is very very on brand. It's 3 splinter groups, all with varying different ideologies, all probably hate each other. Throughout history, this has happened a few times. Hopefully this works out though.
Yeah, no, it's fucking awesome. I can't wait to see what they come up with, and I will pretend to like it.
And if you're a developer there, hit us up. Smile.
The joke is I didn't like Disco.
You didn't like? Oh, that's right. I do remember you saying you didn't like. Yeah, we did a whole episode about it.
We talked about that.
Yeah, that's all I really had to say. I just wanted to highlight it, bring it to people's attention, look at the cool stuff.
And speaking of things to highlight, we had a little chit chat. We had a little bring it back to horror. We had a little chit chat with an upcoming indie horror dev from Japan, didn't we, Cameron?
Let's hit that stank interview, bro.
Yeah, hopefully after that we're gonna be talking about our my God, what am I saying?
What do you mean after what? You didn't say the first part.
Man. I was like,
we're talking with Nolan.
Welcome to the interview portion of the episode. Today we're joined by Nolan. He is the game director and programmer for the small indie dev team Distortion. They are currently working on their first game, Nightmare Operator. It's an action horror shooter set in Tokyo. Thanks for joining us, Nolan.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me.
Just to get started, I just wanted to give people just like a bit of an overview just of yourself and like your history in game dev and how you got to be the game director of your own studio.
That's going to be a
big one.
Quite a convoluted path.
Oh no, don't worry. Everybody's like steps is just like a winding road. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I took the absolute most backwards. I've been playing a Shadow of the Erdtree, right? And I think I went to the Shadowkeep at the absolute last possible way that you can go into it, and that's kind of similar to my path into the games industry. So I went to college, like a lot of people do, obviously, and my major was lit. So definitely not any sort of STEM thing, not programming, not game design, not any of that. And then I finished my lit degree and realized that I hated writing literature. I thought basically, because the realization that I had partway through the degree is that everything that I really connected with in terms of modern writing, in terms of what was being done, was like, I played like 999 halfway through, and I was like, oh man. The absolute insane stuff that you can do with video games is so cool. And I was like, oh man, I screwed up with this lit stuff.
Dude, the amount of cred you just got with our viewers just by mentioning 999, you have no idea.
Yeah, I'm a huge Uchikoshi fan. Obviously, Somnium Files is also fantastic.
Yes,
course, yeah.
dude, so good.
So after graduating, I was like, well, I no longer want to write literature, and I don't want to go to work at a publisher or anything like that, which is what I had kind of intended to do when I started my degree. So kind of lost, pathless. I was like, well, I really like Japan, and I had studied abroad in Japan. So I did the thing that many people do, which is go over and start teaching English, right? And I really enjoyed that. It was really fun. I had some excellent students. I taught every age from preschool to like some of my students were like 80 years old. And that was really cool. And I got to meet a bunch of Japanese people and interact with them, and that was really fun. But the company itself kind of sucked. So after a year, I was like,
oh no,
okay,
it sucks because it sounds like such a fulfilling job, but man,
yeah. So after a year of that, I was like, well, I don't want to do this, and I was thinking about moving back to America, but I had met a girl who I really liked.
Ooh.
And anyway, we're married now, and we just had our first child.
Congratulations
this year. So
congrats.
Thank you. So
that's an exciting life event.
Obviously, I did not go back to America. So instead, what I ended up doing was I started working at a company called Sonic Boom Entertainment. Sonic Boom is a web development company, but they do like mostly esports focused stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was the lead developer on a project there. If you're asking, how did you get a lead developer job when you were a lit major, I'm also asking that question.
Dude, sometimes if you're convincing enough, that's all you need.
When I was in high school, I had written a novel, It Sucks, Please Do Not Try to Find It, that I did the whole website for, and I had consistently done a lot of like just hobbyist web design and stuff throughout like high school and college, and that gave me enough skill to get a dev job. And then I worked on that project for 3 years, and it was a very small company, Sonic Boom, and I was directly under the president. And then at the end of that project, I was like, hey, I think it's kind of a waste to keep having at least me on this project, because I could be making something else that's new and not this. And I think we could probably tackle like an indie game. So I proposed that and pitched that and did a bunch of prototypes, and they really liked it. So we decided to spin that whole project off into its own thing, which is now Nightmare Operator and Distortion. Distortion is now an independent company, and that's where we're at.
So you started prototyping at this other job, and then
Yep.
you left that job to pursue solo?
No. That company liked the prototypes and then decided to continue doing that same project, but as a different company.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So they spun it off.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I own Distortion, and the co-owner is my old boss. He just like
Gotcha.
really liked what we were doing.
So interesting.
Yeah.
That's so. You're right. That is pretty wild.
It is. Yeah.
How do you come up with that pitch? Like, are you just like, you're just like sitting around and you're thinking about like what kind of game you want to make? And
Yeah, so I had previously, when I was in America, when I was working in university, or when I was attending university, during the summer, I would teach at a camp and I taught level design. And even before that, I did a bunch of Gary's Mod and Team Fortress 2 modding, right? That's like the earliest entry into like game design that I had done. And I taught specifically, I literally taught like high school kids how to use the Hammer editor, which was really fun. And so I had like the level design background, and I had used Unity and stuff before in that capacity and for like hobby projects. So like I had enough at the start of this to be like, well, I can throw together a prototype, right? I had this idea for like a game that I wanted to make, and we had a couple ideas, and Nightmare Operator was one of them. It was the one I was most passionate about, and then the other was kind of existed just to make Nightmare Operator look better, to be honest with you. So I presented those couple of prototypes, and I did the whole business pitch and everything. I wrote up a business plan. This is all in Japanese, by the way, for the record. I was at Sonic Boom Entertainment For a significant portion of the time that I was working there, I was the only non-Japanese person. So all of our communication, my boss is obviously Japanese. He's an older guy. The name of the company, Sonic Boom, is specifically from Guile from Street Fighter, right?
Gotcha.
He's a huge kind of retro game fan, and so are the other kind of heads of that company. So when they saw kind of the pitch for Nightmare Operator, and they saw especially when we were talking about going for the PlayStation 1 aesthetic and that type of stuff, old Resident Evil, they were really into it and they really liked it. So that's, I guess, play to your audience is how we got there.
Knowing that you worked at a company that specifically did a lot of esports, and I assume that in Japan a lot of those esports were specifically fighting games, that must have been a pretty big inspiration.
Yeah,
considering the game that Nightmare Operator is, because just to explain really quickly, Nightmare Operator is not your typical survival horror game.
Yeah.
In some aspects it is, but in most aspects it's closer to a fighting game almost.
It's interesting because I think people see the game and they think it's kind of one way, and then they touch the game. And so we had our first demo at Tokyo Game Show, the first public demo, which was I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that was crazy, and that was a really fun experience. But when people touch it, I get kind of two reactions, and one of the reactions is oh, this is really interesting. You're doing something really different here. And the other reaction is you're a sicko. What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? So just to explain briefly, so Nightmare Operator, yeah, it's a third-person shooter. We have a PlayStation 1 aesthetic, although we're definitely cheating very heavily on that. We have volumetric fog and stuff.
Yeah.
And the system is the core system is something called the clutch system, which is while you're shooting, you only have one gun. But to switch modes in that gun, you kind of hold down a button, like a manual transmission clutch, and then you input a Hadouken or a Shoryuken motion, and then you can switch your weapons or reload by doing that. So I have this huge ask for a task that is normally just a button press in other games. Yeah. So a lot of people see that and they're like, that's a lot of extra effort to do something that I'm used to doing, just not even thinking about it.
To explain further for people who don't know much about fighting games, because there are some people in our audience. So what you would have to do is a quarter circle motion or a full or a half circle or with your thumbstick or your D-pad or your WASD.
Yeah, or your WASD.
To switch your gun from let's say a sniper mode or a railgun mode or an assault rifle.
Yeah.
And same goes with reloading. You have to keep going.
Yeah,
I found it really interesting from watching it, because to me it's taking the tension from other survival horror games where you're thinking about ammo and oh my god, I'm about to run out of my magazine, to that actual the act of changing your weapon or reloading becoming the stress point, not the fact of how much you have left, etc.
Right, because you have infinite reserves, right? There's a clip, so you have to reload that, but there's no ammo pickups and stuff. That's infinite. But the thing that I like about this system, and the reason that I think it's got some legs to it, is that it takes something that's normally a non-skill thing and it puts it into the hands of the player to be something that they can get good at and get better at. So if you're able to switch very quickly, you can do it so much faster than you could reload in any other game or switch weapons in any other game.
Yeah.
And as long as you're able to keep doing that, you're pretty strong. But because it's a horror game, if you start to panic, if something surprises you and you can't reload, or you miss a reload when they're closing in on you, that creates a lot of tension.
It's a super, super engaging system, and it's really easy to fall in love with it, I find.
Thank you.
it feels like such a perfect evolution of a specific game mechanic. I wouldn't have thought about changing your weapon or reloading your gun just by doing a quarter motion, a quarter circle motion with my D-pad. But as I was doing it, eventually you get into the rhythm where you're oh, I don't need to always reload the same rifle. I can I can switch between guns as fast as I can do these motion controls, and you can pull some crazy stuff.
And the thing is, if something has a really slow fire rate, right, that actually, just like in other games, it resets. So when you switch to the weapon, the fire rate is gone. But if you can do the switch and the switch back faster than the fire rate of the weapon, you can fire faster than the weapon is supposed to fire. So you can just rapidly be switching as fast as you possibly can, and just like for the railgun weapon we have in the game, you can pop off shots really, really quick. The intent was to make it feel like you're kind of like cocking like a bolt action or something when you're doing that.
Yes.
There's a lot of inspirations that kind of led me to thinking of this. One of them was I really like in VR games when like Half-Life Alyx.
That's so funny because that's exactly what Cameron said earlier while we were playing the game. He was talking about Half-Life Alyx.
It's fun that you can screw up the reload, right? Like when you panic and you drop your magazine and you're like, but that's something that's really hard to do in not a VR game. So I kind of wanted to bring that in. The other thing is that this is secretly I want to trick people into being fighting game fans. So I think a lot of fighting games in the modern era, they take the approach of increasing accessibility, which is great, and they should. I don't have any problem with that. Like I think things like modern mode in Street Fighter 6 are like excellent, and that brings a lot of people in. But you're not going to get to people who have already decided that they don't like fighting games if you're just improving the fighting game. Like the people who aren't looking at the game and who aren't even willing to like start touching it, it's going to be harder to reach them. So I'm taking a completely different approach, and I'm taking a genre that doesn't typically have these mechanics and putting them in, because I think a big reason people struggle with things like Hadouken or like motion inputs in general is that you're in the heat of a battle with another player online. You've got 90 seconds to win, and most likely they're already like pounding you into the dirt, right? And that's just a terrible environment to learn how to do something difficult. And a lot of people don't want to be like, well, okay, now I got to spend 10 minutes in training mode before I get to the fun part of the thing, right?
Time to go in the fucking insane asylum for a little bit.
Yeah.
Just all the white walls, practicing in Hadouken. Not really compelling for most people.
Exactly.
And usually the single player doesn't really pose enough of a challenge to warrant like learning anything.
Yeah. And I think so. I was thinking about like motion inputs, and some people like want those gone in like a 2K XO or whatever the name of it is. Project L.
Oh, 2XKO.
Yeah. I can never. They should have just called it double knockoff. Double knockout. It's so confusing.
Yeah, double knockout would have worked, I feel. Project L would have been perfect.
Project L would have been better. Anyway, so they got rid of motion inputs for that game, but I think people talk a lot about like there's balancing stuff with motion inputs, and once you understand it, there's a lot of fun with that. And I was thinking probably if you can recontextualize these things and introduce them to people in a less high pressure environment, I think they'd like them. And then I was like, because a lot of people feel like they can't do those motions at all. They're like, I just can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like everyone loves Tony Hawk, right? Like people love Pro Skater, right? And that has like very similar input demands that it asks of you, but you're not in a high pressure like competitive environment, so people are like chill with it and they can learn how to do that in their own pace. So I wanted to design a game that kind of allowed people to get comfortable with those things, and also introduce other mechanics like the idea of like how important animation canceling is, how important meter management is. So like we've gotten rid of ammo as a resource entirely, but we have like a super gauge in Nightmare Operator. We call it the gear gauge because I'm a huge Arc System Works fan. Yeah.
Fucking.
In case you didn't notice, we just straight up put a Roman cancel in the game as well.
Yeah.
So like that meter management is really important because that meter allows you to do the Roman cancel. It allows you to heal, and also secretly, you guys might not have found this, but if you do a stinger motion from Devil May Cry, there's actually a super attack that happens.
You're fucking kidding.
Yeah, you need 3 meter, but it'll teleport forward and do like a slash that then like explodes and stuff.
Oh, that's sick! I wish I knew that.
Yeah, we put that in right before the TGS demo, but like I wasn't sure if it was buggy or not, so I was like, well, I want to leave it in just in case like people can find it, but like I don't want to tell people to use it if there's any bugs. So yeah, it's in there. I did it in the IGN thing I did a couple times just to demonstrate that it's there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so the other kind of mechanic about the game is that all of these things that you're doing, these motions, right? These are all also tied to items that you find. So these modules that you insert in your weapon, they actually look like SNES cartridges, right? So that's kind of trying to teach people the idea that like you can shoot the balancing of things is important because stronger weapons are going to be on more difficult motions, right? But you can say, okay, well, I prefer to have a setup that has like easier to access motions and like more general use weapons. So you can build it like that. Or you can say like, I really like frost weapons, so I'm going to have all of my motions built out and just have like ice weapons on everything, so that I can freeze enemies really quickly and that type of stuff. And you can equip all those, and you can also equip whatever super you have. So when you have the more of those supers in the game, you can choose those and build your own kind of loadout, like a custom character type thing.
Yeah, it was interesting. You're talking about like creating a like lower stress environment for those kind of motion inputs, but at least from watching the game, it doesn't seem like you
can say from watching me panic, it's fine.
It's interesting what you guys have done, because it's a much faster game, I think, because of the clutch mechanic that you're talking about, where it kind of necessitizes or like facilitates your ability to actually deal with characters that are moving a lot faster, because like it's not like a Resident Evil or Silent Hill where they're just like slowly pacing towards you and you get to line up the headshot.
One of the other obvious inspirations is RE4, right? Specifically RE4 original, right? Not the remake. And in RE4, when you aim, you're rooted in place, right? So with us, we didn't want to do that, but we kind of liked that, because I really like that about RE4 original. You have to like stand your ground and like take them out as they approach. So for us, when you're doing the clutch and when you're putting these motions, you can't move, because obviously your movement input is now the motion input, right? But you can do stuff like during a dodge, you can actually use the clutch as well. During melee attacks, you can use the clutch. So the goal for that is to teach people like, you should be thinking about what you're doing next during long animations, right? Like if you're in a dodge animation, that's going to go on for a couple frames. So you should be using that time to do something else and stay mobile. And all the enemies in the game, especially those Inigami at the end of the demo, they're designed to make you move, to force you to not be in one spot. Because as long as you're in one spot and you can do the inputs, you have infinite ammo, you can fire really strong weapons really quickly and stuff. So you're kind of unstoppable if you're not moving.
It's really interesting how it's kind of like shifted that tension though from like that classic, like it still has that where you're like always worried about like the enemies and you're always aware of it. But it's shifted it from like, like how many, shots do I need to land, to like, oh my God, I need to time my inputs and make sure that I'm dodging here and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. We'll see when the game actually comes out and like a wider audience has access to it, how people feel about it. But so that was actually, we've been working on the game for about a year so far. And that was like a big concern that we had internally, was like, we're all testing it and we've all kind of learned how this works. And we're also like, we know where all the surprises in the level are, right? So we're not going to get ambushed or panic that much. We're going to be like master top level execution every time we're doing it, right? So is this actually fun to like a new person or someone who's maybe like not a fighting game fan or not like an action game fan? Getting to like exhibit the game at Tokyo Game Show, we had a lot of people play. We actually had like, I can't believe this, but we had people wait 2 hours to play the demo of the game.
Oh, wow.
It's insane.
That must feel amazing.
It did feel really good. I also was like, please, there are so many other things you could be doing. We're still in alpha. Like, you please do not wait around for us. But people were willing, and we got a lot of feedback, and it was like really, really positive. We've had most people. I kind of, it's a big ask with this system, right? And I'm kind of trusting that people will bear with us on it. But it seems like people are willing to do that, which I'm super happy about, because well, frankly, if people didn't like it, we'd be like super screwed. We'd have to like really reassess the game. And it's worth noting, I talked about accessibility earlier. So like if there's anyone who's listening to this and they're like, oh man, the game visually looks cool, but I hate everything that I just heard. Like we will definitely make sure that there's accessible modes with easier input for people. Because like, and some people like physically it can be a difficult thing to do, right? They might not have the dexterity or something due to whatever reason. So I don't want to, I am not one of those people who's like, no, it's got to be hard and you got to play my way. We're definitely going to have accessibility options when the game comes out, for sure. So if you're hearing all this and you're panicking, we'll have an easy input mode. If Street Fighter has one, there's no reason we can't. That'll absolutely be in the game, but we want to make sure the core system is as fun as possible before we start doing all that.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go into that like TGS experience for you guys, and like how that actually got like how did you guys get featured at all, or like were you on the main?
Yeah, we did. So one of the things we've kind of found being like a Japanese studio is that, and this is to be expected, but like Western media is like really bad about reporting on Japanese events and the Japanese indie game scene and stuff.
That's one of the big reasons why we were so excited to do this interview specifically, because it's very rare that we get to talk to Japanese developers.
Yeah, and of course there's always a language barrier too, right? Like obviously I'm American. I guess I should say that. Maybe it's not. Maybe some people assumed that I was a Japanese guy with a Western name and a perfect. I actually, my name on Twitter is just my real name, because I used to get a lot of people assuming that I was a Japanese person because I would talk about Japan and stuff on Twitter, and I was like, please don't. I'm a white dude. So Tokyo Game Show, we were selected for a program called Selected Indie 80, which is something that Tokyo Game Show sponsors every year. And the way that works is they have submissions, and they pick 80 games out of those submissions, and they sponsor the entire thing. They give you the booth, they give you a rental PC and monitor and everything, and they let you exhibit for free. And that's like a super, super cool program. And it's not limited to just companies in Japan. It's companies from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I like think that's an awesome initiative. And the fact that we were chosen for that is like, I can't even believe it. So we got to do that. And that was really, really fun. And so TGS is a 4-day event. It's 2 business days and 2 public days. And it's the first time I've ever done a big exhibition like this, and I was wholly underprepared for it. like the game was in a good position, and like we had all our materials and stuff. I just didn't realize how exhausting it was going to be. I was
those are long days.
Every day I was stumbling. We ran out of time to book a hotel for it, right? And I was like, well, I live in Tokyo, so it's not that big of a deal. Tokyo Game Show occurs out in Chiba for people who don't know, in an event venue called Makuhari Messe. It's like an hour from my apartment. I was like, that's not that bad of a commute every day. And then like the last day coming home, I was on the train. I was like, this was a mistake. I needed to be at a hotel. I was so tired, and I had to change at Tokyo Station every day too. And Tokyo Station is a nightmare, frankly. But yeah, the exhibition was really cool. And again, that the fact that they have things like that where they'll do that promotion for indie games is, I think every show should have that. And I think things like Gamescom also have similar options as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's getting more and more popular because it's good for literally everybody. It's good for the scene. It's good for the venue, or not the venue, but the event.
And publishers like it because like they can
new talent.
Yeah, they see the actual reaction at a show floor, which is a lot better for them to see that than just we've been lucky to have pretty good response on social media and stuff. Unfortunately, that does mean I have to keep still using Twitter, which I wish I did not have to, but like that can be kind of fickle, and like people can have a hit tweet one day and then nothing the next, and so publishers don't. Some put a lot of stake in that, but a lot kind of are cautious about it. But like show floors, you get to see how people are actually handling the game itself, which is very different.
Yeah, it's nice to have a metric that isn't just like how many wish lists do you have, how many followers, etc. So you're not just looking at numbers and stuff like that. You can actually be like, look, this is how people actually feel playing the game, and this is like the buzz that they get and stuff like that. It's a lot more representative, I guess.
Playing the metrics game and like thinking about your wish lists and like social media engagement and that stuff. It's soul crushing. It's it's like the worst.
It's exhausting. It's not why you get into game dev.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys have to deal with that too, as doing a podcast and doing. Do you consider yourselves
Don't
influencers?
Say that. I'll cry. I might actually start crying.
Internet personalities. Is that?
All of them suck. I hate all of them. Let's move on. I'm gonna start crying. This is soul crushing.
How has been your experience actually transitioning into the game development scene in Japan, and like how have you found the scene? Like, did you meet a lot of people at TGS, like other developers, etc.?
Yeah, I got to meet a lot of people internationally, but Japan actually, Tokyo has a pretty cool indie scene. So there's an event that happens once a month called Tokyo Indies. It's in Akihabara, and it's an indie developer meetup. That's really cool. And like, there's a lot of consistent attendees, and you get to know people and see their games that they're working on. There was something called an Asoblu, which was a co-working space you could sign up for as an indie dev, where it was an office in Shibuya where you'd just go and you would work on your game while some other indie devs were there. And that was a free initiative, and as such, no longer exists because it turns out running things for free is pretty difficult. And that's all really cool. The one thing that I'll say that's kind of unfortunate is that for the indie community in Tokyo, or at least these events I'm talking about, it's not quite as a mixed international space as I think would be ideal. And I think a lot of those spaces are kind of like Westerner dominated, foreigner dominated, and that makes it intimidating for a lot of Japanese people to show up to those things.
Oh, I see.
Because the language barrier is something that a lot of Japanese people have a lot of anxiety about, right? So when they go into a space and it's like even just 50% foreigners, that can be really intimidating. Because they're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk or have a conversation. And especially in the development space, like we know gamers are shy, right? That is kind of a bummer. And I wish, I don't want to blame the Tokyo Indie staff because I think they do a fantastic job trying to make it accessible. But I do wish that it was easier for Japanese developers to kind of go into those spaces. And I also, I can't speak about like the Kansai region, like Osaka, Kyoto, right? But I know there are a lot of people who live out in Saitama or like further away from Tokyo that would love to go to those things, but it's like an hour, 2 hour commute, and it's hard. So like people out in the countryside, I mean, that's true everywhere, right? You're kind of isolated.
Is there like much, because you mentioned like the free program that got shut down. I assume that was run by some private organization. Is there any sort of like government support or anything like that for game development?
Yeah, I mean, there is, but dealing with the government in general is always just kind of difficult no matter where you live.
Yeah, so that's just, par for the course.
But yeah, so where is the team at now? Like so you've spun off from the previous group. What was the process actually like for putting together that team? Were there a lot of people that you knew previously that you're like, I want to work with this person, or was it a lot of like searching for who you needed?
So the way that worked was we put up job listings. We had some in Japanese on our website and on a website called Indeed. I'm going to be very specific here, just so because I recently got asked questions of like how to put a team together for indie developers, right?
Oh yeah.
So assuming you have any amount of funding at all, what you're going to want to do is do job listings. And Work with Indies is a great site. So for the Western listings, the English listings, we used Work with Indies. And then I also did a bunch of scouting on Twitter. If it was current year, I would have done it on TikTok or Instagram and not Twitter. But back when I was doing it, Twitter was still not owned by the worst human being on the planet. It was
usable.
I mean, sorry, I didn't say that. Not owned by.
It was usable.
Yeah, it was usable. He's like the second worst human being on the planet. Anyway, with the Work with Indie stuff and the other job listings, we got like 400 to 500 applications, and I was the only person vetting any of those. So that overwhelmed us, and by us I mean me, pretty significantly. And we ended up hiring one person out of those, which is a very bad hit rate, and I feel really bad. I did a lot of interviews. There were extremely talented people, but sometimes it was like we could only afford to pay in yen, and like in some countries the conversion rate was making that like untenable. They wouldn't even have like cost of living expense, which is terrible, right? So I didn't want to offer jobs to people who would not have been able to support themselves. And also like some people had really good talent, but they were like not quite the right fit for what we needed for this. So we hired one person from those job applications, and the other two people, one of them, I had been a fan of her art on Twitter. She's Kathy. She's our director, and she did a lot of like Mega Man Legends style low poly stuff. And I thought she was really cool. And I always thought like if I ever do a game, I'd like to work with her. And so I reached out to her. Luckily, like her stuff previously would not indicate that she liked horror or like action games particularly, but in talking, she actually likes that stuff quite a bit. So she ended up being a fantastic fit. She did a lot of like the puppet models and like the environment models and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and our main character as well. And then the last person was Tamura-san, our animator, who was just he didn't even have a particularly large following at the time on Twitter. He was just kind of posting like animation work he did. But it was really cool, and it was really high quality. And so I reached out to him and asked if he wanted to work with us, and he did. And then we put together the team. And then there's 2 external illustrators we're working with too. One of them is, I can't say his name. His username is Nolan, and I cannot spell it for you. It mixes katakana and English letters, so.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's very, very difficult. It's katakana no, lowercase I, N, and uppercase H if you're searching for it. Good luck trying to put that into a search bar. But he's a very popular Japanese illustrator who does like horror stuff and has done all of the creature designs in the game and is incredibly talented. And so I reached out to him and asked to commission like our creature designs. And then I love Gravity Rush like a lot. I think Gravity Rush is it's like criminal that it's not one of the most beloved franchises of all time. Mm-hmm. And I really like the art direction and the artists that worked on that. So I reached out to Olga Takeshi, who did the concept art and the backgrounds and stuff for that game, and also like the cover art and stuff, and asked him if he'd be interested in working with us. And it turns out Olga-san also used to work on like Siren. And he's like very close with Masahiro Ito and Toyama-san.
That's really fucking cool. Siren is a gem.
Yeah, well, so Toyama Keijiro was the director of Silent Hill 1, and then was the director of Gravity Rush. So like, there's this direct through line, right? So he was actually a really good fit, and he was willing to work with us, which is like an insane get. Thank you, Japan Studio, for like shutting down so that these incredibly talented it sucks. Yeah. It sucks, but like now there's these incredibly talented people who are like burned on the industry because they got screwed.
Oh, for sure.
Because Sony made some very interesting decisions about what they wanted to continue making.
Interesting is the nicest way to put it.
And now they're like, well, Olga-san's willing to work with us, an indie team, which is super cool. I think it helps that I speak Japanese, right? And most people find that extremely amusing when I start talking to them. So I get like a buff, the bilingual buff, right? It's very useful in negotiations. But yeah, now I'm really glad that we got to work with them. I kind of would have preferred if Japan Studio continued existing and we got like a Gravity Rush 3 and you know the game that's name shall not be spoken, that initials are BB and should be on PC, and I would really like to play, but will never happen.
You can say it.
Yeah, the fact that Bloodborne is not on PC is like, like, what are you doing? I
don't understand, man. There's like no reason not to. It's so strange.
One of the things that's kind of like dangerous for me now that because I'm a very outside person to the game industry, and I've very suddenly been put in a position where I can talk to people. Is like I have a route to one of the executive producers on Bloodborne. And I've really thought about just like emailing him and being like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? like really seriously, what's going on? Also, I was speaking with one of the kind of higher ups at ID for Xbox at TGS, right? And did you guys watch the Xbox showcase that happened during TGS?
I watched. I skipped through, if I'm honest. I skipped through a lot of it. There's just so many of them happening at all times that I'm at the point where I need to watch them because of work, but I will skip.
I have
there's just too much.
I have a mental illness that requires me to watch all of them consistently. Yeah. But so I watched that, and Phil Spencer speaks Japanese at the beginning of his portion in that, and I told the idea at XOX guy to tell Phil to work on his Japanese. So I shouldn't do stuff like that. Eventually, it's gonna get me in trouble. But like, you know,
that's fine.
You can practice a little bit.
It's PS6 inspired. It's not a.
Yeah.
But like, how did you figure out like okay, this is what I need, and like for the game, this is like the kind of people we need and stuff like that. Like,
I have like no idea what I'm doing.
No.
I mean, so it's just kind of, you got to take things one step at a time. So for me, I'm pretty good at adapting to code tasks. I don't know how that happened. It just kind of did. But like, I can learn how to code things and implement systems pretty quickly. And like, as I said, I had the background doing level design stuff. So that wasn't all like new to me. That was stuff I had experience with. Obviously, it wasn't like career experience before, but it was something that I felt confident like starting there. But for me, like art is just I I took art lessons in college. I've tried 3D modeling and animating in the past. Some things, they're just not your thing, right? So
yeah.
I was like, we're gonna need a talented art team for sure on this. And the minimum that I figured was we need someone who's very excellent at character modeling, which is Kathy, our art director. Someone who's very excellent at animating, Tamara-san, who is our animator. And then someone who's very good at like 3D art and like environment art, and that's Brian, he's the guy from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, almost all of the people we're working with are like multi-talented, so all of them can do 3D modeling. Brian and Kathy can do illustration, and that like helps a lot because and obviously like I'm doing a couple different tasks at the same time as well.
Everybody wearing different hats at all times.
Yeah. Billy, you and I talked about this via Discord beforehand, but like
yes.
I did all the music that we've been using so far, which I don't consider myself really a musician at all. But we needed music because we had the opportunity to have trailers, and it was like between licensing and having like original music, and I was like, screw it, I'll just
you gotta get something. You gotta get something.
I had a couple of people during TGS, like other indie devs, ask me for advice, and the first piece of advice I'd give is like, don't listen to what I say, and then the second piece of advice I'd say is like, people worry about like the whole like 10,000 hour thing. Have you ever heard about that?
God.
Yeah.
Oh, to become a master.
It's
to become a
Malcolm
master,
Gladwell, Outliers.
Yeah, Outliers, right? And I have a lot of problems with that mentality because it's like you got to be 10,000 hours to be like the Beatles, right? And it's like, okay, cool, but
do you need to be the Beatles?
The Beatles, exactly, right? I think you can have like 100 hours and be entry level, and if you have like 1,000 hours in something, you're probably better than most people on the planet at that task. Right.
Yeah. And also like I feel like there's a general rule, and I'm going to be talking specifically about music, but I feel like it can apply to other things.
Yeah.
If it sounds good, it probably is good.
Yep.
That's usually like if it sounds good, if it looks good, if it plays well, it probably does. It's probably because it does,
Yeah.
Like you don't need to have like mastery to know that stuff. That's just innate. You'll know.
I think artists' largest enemies most of the time is a businessman, but then the second largest, the second largest enemy is yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Like people just kind of are hypercritical about their stuff, and it's like, especially for myself, like there's listening to the music, especially. I'm like, oh, this part kind of sucks, but like I never get that feedback. Or like at TGS, the things that we were worried about with the game. Like the clutch system, I barely got anyone who's like, oh, I kind of think this is too hard or anything. And what we did get feedback on stuff was like the things that I was like intentionally not paying attention to because I was like, oh, we'll fix that later. it's not a big deal. Like the UI, our UI is extremely early. So I was like, whatever. But that was like one of the biggest pieces of feedback. And it's like, oh, it's very hard to assess yourself properly, right?
It's almost impossible.
Yeah. If you're part of an indie team or you're like a solo dev, like I think just bring at least one other person on board to like work with you and collaborate, because you guys can keep yourselves sane, I think. Like Signalis was only 2 people, right? But I think they probably worked incredibly well with each other. I mean, obviously, that game's amazing. So
they also had help, a bit of outside help from Devolver for QA and stuff.
Yeah.
And QA is so important.
Hey,
holy shit.
Speaking of, I can talk about this. Speaking of like Signalis and like and publishers and stuff, boy, this year kind of sucks for trying to find a publisher, because we were talking to several places and then they'd go quiet for like a month and we'd hear nothing, and then I'd get an email that's like, so the company went under. We were talking to Humble. And then the Humble just completely disappeared into the ether.
I forgot that happened this year. Yeah. That's right.
And a couple other places. It's been awful and it sucks, and I feel really bad for them.
You're like, all right, Annapurna, that's our next
band. I was gonna make the same.
Not gonna say anything about that, but yeah, it's a real bummer, and it's very disheartening. For I can't even imagine, like we're in a really good position because we have like a company that's backing us, but like if you're a smaller dev and you're like, oh, this is my chance, Humble's really talking to me, and then the entire company implodes, like awful. It sucks.
Yeah.
And of course, for all the people working there, it's terrible too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Johnny.
I mean, yeah,
Johnny, I've been sending your resume to everyone. I promise.
Yeah, you even like think about like all of the like great games that Humble got to publish before they went under, and it's just like you're not gonna that same resource is no longer available, so we're just gonna get less good game. Like not as many games are gonna get funded. It just sucks.
I liked like every game that Annapurna put out, like Outer Wilds and stuff.
Oh.
That was like that's one of the best games.
It's
like
my,
ever. Just
it's
like
my
ever.
favorite game of all time for sure.
Yeah.
But
How cracked do they have to be to be like, no, you just put the lantern down and just walk away in the DLC?
Yeah.
It like I can't even imagine being the type of person that comes up with something like that. I get really jealous of that type of game dev where I'm like, you guys are insane.
Well, you're the kind of person who figured out like, oh, the tension and release of like motion inputs in a survival horror.
Well,
like
we'll
that you say you're not cracked, but there's some stuff that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You got time to like really go down and polish everything until it's perfect, I'm sure.
Can I talk about my favorite Nintendo game real quick?
Go for it.
For sure, go for it.
This is a bit of a tangent, but since we're talking about clever game design. So my favorite Nintendo game is the Pikmin 4 advertisements on the Tokyo Metro. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to Tokyo or like seen how this works, but every week they have like a 30-second advertisement for Pikmin 4, and it's a series of macro images of a single object, and you have to guess what the object is, and then at the end it'll show you like a really obvious picture, and then you guess it and it shows what it is. It shows a picture of it in game, like with the Pikmin carrying it around, and then it's like Pikmin 4 on sale. And it's so crazy to me that someone on the Nintendo ad team figured out a way to get you to play a game while you're just like sitting on your commute in the morning to the office. Like it's so clever and it's so minimal and simple, and I really get inspired by stuff like that. Also, they managed to engage you for an entire advertisement length, which is also probably good for them.
That's pretty huge.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, I see every other ad on the train and immediately look away.
When it comes to, because we have talked about the mechanics of the combat a lot.
Right.
I kind of want to talk more about the survival horror aspect and what you guys are pushing for, like with progress in the game, because I do know that there is an izakaya portion that I heard about.
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't have like that much info, and I was just curious about that, like how the game loop was going to be.
Yeah,
like the level design.
So we'll talk about this a little bit in more detail in the future, but I can talk briefly about it because the izakaya part is definitely the part that we have that like on the Steam page, and then we haven't shown anything of it yet. Yeah,
that's why I got curious about that.
we do have it. I think you can actually see her, Misha, our main character. You can see her in the izakaya in the IGN thing I did because it's the title screen. So we wanted to have, how do I put this? I think we wanted to have a way to progress the narrative that was a little bit more interesting and fit kind of the pace of what we're doing better. So rather than it being like a game like Resident Evil 4 is like, it's all one day, it's all one mission, it's one thing. And for us, we kind of want to tell a story that's over a longer period of time. So you go on a variety of missions, and then between those missions, we have the izakaya sections where you get to talk with a variety of other characters and stuff. Because there's, with the setting that we're doing, there's a lot that we wanted to talk about kind of not so subtly. So there's like the ghosts, right? The yokai, right? And if you look at the level we've designed, the Shimokitazawa level, there's a lot of like evacuation and emergency stuff. And a lot of that imagery is actually taken from like the COVID pandemic when that was happening here. Because the not so subtle secret of the game is that like the yokai are just kind of a stand-in for how poorly a lot of that was handled. So like the idea is if in 2020 something worse than the COVID pandemic happened, like things would have gone significantly poorer because people couldn't have cooperated, right? And we want to talk about those kind of ideas. And also just, I think as a person living in Japan, I think there's a lot of communication that doesn't get done particularly well between, Western fans of Japanese games and Japanese fans of Western games and stuff. And I wanted to like have a story where there's a lot of people on both those sides interacting with each other, and you get to see a little bit more of a daily life slice than you typically get in a lot of action games. So having this break where you get to go and talk at the izakaya and that type of stuff is a way to do that.
And those levels, those missions are mostly like Because I mean, I did play it, so I could tell that it was very get a key item to open a door and all that. Is it gonna stay linear, or is it gonna be a bit more? Are you gonna have like more open survival horror? Like,
we definitely have like way more mechanics going on. So the demo version that you played is also like the vertical slice that we've been pitching to people with, and the idea is that needs to be kind of like the purest representation of just a level in the gameplay, and like very simple lock and key gameplay. But every other level in the game, and we're obviously like in progress on these things, are going to have much more like interconnected routes and things you have to do, and more advanced puzzles and stuff. And there is stuff like, did you guys find the hologram wall? Yeah, the chests.
The hologram wall.
Yeah,
I don't know. So the one I remember the most is the one that's you have to play with amplitude.
Yeah,
like you have like a little waveform and you have to play with the amplitude and everything to unlock the chest.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, obviously, I like the puzzle, but that's I had to do that puzzle, by the way,
it too.
During the IGN thing without sound.
Oh, you couldn't hear shit.
But actually, the color of the wave, it's so secretly those knobs are also RGB values. So even if you're not, if you can't hear it, or if you're, because we wanted it to be accessible to like deaf players and stuff as well, right? I don't know how accessible the rest of the game is to deaf players. It's kind of difficult.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Did you find? Sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Did you find the Silent Hill 4?
Yes, I actually. When I saw it, I was I was playing with Cameron. And I was like, I didn't see this last time I played this. What the fuck? And then I turned. I got in. I was like, this looks like the Silent Hill 4 room. And then I was looking around. And when I turned around and I saw the locks on the door, I was like. I was like pointing at the screen, like super excited, like, "Oh, fine, it's the room!" And I had like the. Yeah, I'm
a huge defender of Silent Hill 4, not particularly because I think it's good, but because I think it's like really interesting and there's like really cool ideas. Don't make me actually play it.
It's 2024. It's 2024. You're allowed to enjoy it.
Yeah. So we had that as a little Easter egg.
I love that game.
Yeah.
That's an awesome Easter egg as well.
Yeah. So we want to have a lot more stuff like that in the later levels where there's like more hidden stuff. It's less linear paths and stuff. But for the vertical slice, because there's some. Okay, I don't know if I should say. There's some publishers we've pitched to, and like we get the feedback. I got feedback from a publisher that was a ChatGPT generated criticism.
Awesome.
And the criticism was like, we didn't think the deep sea exploration was very fun, and we thought like the multiple and I sent back an email and I was like, man? I think this is for the wrong game, and they're like, very sorry about that, and then gave me GPT generated criticism of our game, the correct one. And I was like, thank you for your time. So
that's awful.
Yeah,
that's so stupid.
So like with the gameplay,
that's a weird way to find out Abzu 2's coming out. Suffice to say, publishers do a little bit more research or homework when you're contacting developers.
And if you're a developer, make sure the vertical slice you have a vertical slice, because they want one. Sure. And make sure it is the least confusing, simplest presentation of your game idea possible. And I don't even blame a lot of devs or publishers, because like
the purest form,
they get so many submissions and it's hard to play all the games and stuff. It's fine. But when you're pitching, you got to have like the vanilla, the bread and butter, and make sure that still works and it tastes good and stuff. But what am I saying? Make sure your game tastes good. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're out of stuff.
Oh boy,
we're out of time.
Yeah.
Nolan, thanks so much for joining us. If there's anything else you want to shout out or just say to people before we let you go, just now's your time.
Wishlist Nightmare Operator on Steam. I almost forgot to say that. Please do. It helps us a lot.
I would have said it anyways.
Thank you. Yeah.
And check it if you want more news. I suppose I reckon you can also check out the game on Twitter.
Twitter. We're trying to get on TikTok and YouTube and other better platforms. There's a Blue Sky account. I haven't used it. I'm going to use it more.
That's Distortion with 3 Ds. So 3 Ds. DDDistortion.
At DDDistortion Dev on all of those things, and our website is there. You can find it if you search Nightmare Operator. It comes up.
I mean, you'll find it.
Or
you'll find
you
it.
can also just you can look down in the description. You'll find it. I promise you, there will be a link.
You know what? You can also
it'll be easy.
You can also just put your phone down and go enjoy your life. You don't you don't gotta pay attention to anything I'm doing, and it's fine.
You don't have to always be playing video games. You can go outside and kick a football around.
Yeah,
reconnect with nature. We are so far.
Where are you cutting it, Billy? We're reconnect with nature. Is that the?
That's the point of this. Welcome to the worst show on video games. Where at the end of the end of it is just like, oh, don't even fucking play games. Go outside.
It's good advice, honestly.
Indie games, you know them, you love them. Let's talk about them.
So true.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about indie horror games, and we're just gonna, it's not that serious. It's not a crazy this is the history and of the horror games, and this is how it is. It's mostly going to be a more of a discussion. But I do want to go through it in a timeline for major game releases that kind of change the way that independent horror games.
It's like shifts in the zeitgeist as well, right? 100%. Indie horror games at certain points in time focused on very different things, right?
100%. That's one of the things I want to highlight the most because of how before the recording I was talking with K-Bash about this, but I think that horror genre in media is one of the most interesting to me because of how thoroughly empathetic it is. Every horror story is built around the fact that you sympathize and you really empathize with these characters and the struggles, and you can go into some really, really dark stories and explore these stories to their breaking point through that lens, but it never feels awful because it's always through the lens of you empathizing with the character.
Which, as someone who's a horror neophyte, has made me recontextualize the entire concept.
To me, horror is a very, very important genre, near and dear to my heart, and that's why I wanted to go into it because not only is horror. The horror genre is interesting in that sense, but it's also interesting because of the ways that you can adapt that into a horror game. And horror changes, if we go into, we can go into exploitation filmmaking, genre exploitation, not worker exploitation. People always confused when I say that. Then you go into slashers, whatever, and they all have different ways, a bunch of different ways to talk about these difficult topics. But specifically when we talk about horror games, I can start, right? We can start.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with what I grew up with, which is RPG Maker horror games. So specifically, we're talking, Oni, Off. I don't know. Off is one of those games that I'm not sure 100% if I would call horror. It has horror elements, but it's more like fucking weird French. That's it.
Even the French say
weird in French.
Weird French.
Yeah. It's just a weird French horror-ish RPG Maker game. Corpse Party is the one I want to focus on because Corpse Party is an indie horror game that dates back all the way to 1996 on the NEC PC 98. And I want to specifically mention this version of the game, which is the original version, not the I think it was the Windows XP remake in 2008 by Xseed Games, which was fan translated to hell and back, and that's the one I grew up with. But this specific game was a huge deal. It was made in RPG Tsukuru Dante 98, which is the first version of the RPG Maker software a lot of people know about today. And it was made by this 22-year-old college student, and he was just doing it because he was a horror fan, and he just wanted to learn how to make games because he loved the medium. and he submitted his project to, there was this monthly magazine published by the RPG Maker guys called Login Softcom, and they actually spotlighted his game, and it got really, really, really popular. It won awards, and back then dude won like $65,000 in a competition. And this is back then. It became huge. They ported it to mobile phones in Japan, and they did it was a huge sensation.
Looking at it now, they did a PSP version as well.
Yep, there's a sequel that just came out. Like it's one of the most important independent horror games of all time. It got global fame, of course, because of YouTubers, at least fan translations, but also YouTubers. I say that because that's how I learned about it, and I feel like that's obviously how a lot of other people learned about it.
Is this? I'm interested because this is a blind spot for me. Regarding the kind of anime horror genre, because
yes.
Obviously Nightmare Operator is inspired by that, which we talked about. But was
Japanese folk horror.
Yeah, was this one of the first kind of that style of, because there's so many of them now, right?
It's the first independent horror game in this style that I can find at all. If you're talking just in general, I don't think so, because in the 80s we did have Sweet Home on the NES.
Gotcha.
Which was the precursor to Resident Evil, and it did go. There was a lot of stuff about curses. It's the classic, man. Japanese curses in these horror movies. That's just awesome. I love this stuff. I eat it up. All that to say, I think Corpse Party is fucking awful. Not fun to play, but it's very important. You know. It's very important. It's really unfun though. It's mostly trial and error.
Gotcha.
So you'll play it, and then all of a sudden you'll die, and every time you die, it's considered an ending. It's very Clock Tower-esque for people who have played those games. But yeah, no, it was it boomed. It was a big explosion of these games. I don't know if it influenced Yume Nikki, but I need to talk about Yume Nikki because that game is genuinely legendary. It still holds up. I'm not talking about the reboot platformer thing because that was a mistake. I'm talking about the original RPG Maker Yume Nikki. It's very weird to call it a game because it's more of a walking simulator experience thing. There are fail states, but the fail states only bring you back in your exploration. You're basically playing this girl going through her dreams, and you just walk through dreams and you explore this world. And there are a stupid amount of endings, and it's really, really interesting. I don't know if it's ever been recaptured as well. I think it might have been also influenced by LSD Dream Simulator, which is a PS1 game where you also walk through dreams, but in a 3D space. I don't want to linger too much on LSD Dream Sim though, because that game is not independent as much as people will say it. Because I consider it not indie because it was made by Asmik Ace, which is a huge company founded by Kodansha, and Kodansha are the guys behind Shonen Weekly. So, not really a small independent company in my opinion. Yume Nikki, it started a giant revolutionary boom. You got a stupid amount of fan games like Yume Tuki, .Flow, Undertale,
Ebe and the Witch's House.
Ebe, Mad Father. I fucking love Ebe, by the way. Ebe actually is banger. Lisa, Yume Nikki is one of the most important games of all time when it comes to independent horror games. And I would say go check it out because it's free. That's it. It's free. Yeah, it's a free game. You can go on Steam right now. The official translation is free, and you can just play that. And it's a great, if you go into the mindset, the right mindset, you will, it's unforgettable. It's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's pretty much all I have on RPG Maker horror games. Oh, I will mention that if you want to learn more about another little, how important RPG Maker horror is, they just released a game 2 years ago, or no, 4 years ago, 2020, Pocket Mirror, and they just released what was it called again?
Pretty Little Goody Two Shoes.
Little Goody Two Shoes, and you made a video on it, and I think it's fantastic. I need to talk about it because it's such an interesting game.
Yeah.
That they went from like they used this RPG Maker game, and then it turned into something so much bigger.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a really interesting lineage to hear about also, just as from like a normal game person perspective. Like, I'm an Xbox kid from the suburbs.
Yeah, this is freak shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I just dropped I dropped my pants in front of everybody right now it's freak shit. Like, I would not bring this up anywhere else.
You know what specifically like jumps out to me as someone who's played Little Goody Two Shoes and only delved into the back stuff via Pocket Mirror and its whatever its inspirations is like, what do you suppose is making inspiring people to continue that lineage? Because it feels like it's gone like since 96, was it? That original one you mentioned?
The original, Corpse Party is from 96.
Yeah.
And Yume Nikki is from 2004, I believe.
Like, I don't want to say they're all in a straight direct line necessarily, but like they seem...
Oh, it's very much not. It's very much not, because like Yume Nikki was 2004, but the big ones that everybody remembers, like Mad Father, Ebe, those games are like 2012, 2010.
Right.
2010, 2012.
Like, do you suppose that this kind of weird, abstract or whatever, like even cruel horror just isn't allowed to exist under publishing complications or like whatever? Do they just, like, is it relegated to indie by design?
I think that it's really popular with indie developers because of how, I mean, it's made in RPG Maker. And RPG Maker is so easy to get into. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I was obsessed with these games, I got into game dev through RPG Maker, and it's really simple to use. It's all event based. There's no programming, and you can really go crazy with it. And it's the documentation for RPG Maker, like it's from 96, dude. There is so much documentation.
There's so many asset packs as well. I feel like I remember Humble used to do like a bundle with like, you know, thousands of sprites and stuff that you could just get.
That's why I think it's so popular with independent developers, because you can if you have the story in your mind, you can go crazy with it. And it's really easy to just start. You know, like you have your asset packs, you have your making an event is as simple as fucking, okay, when this scene starts, this happens, and then you can just like type in the text and it's like immediate. It's super quick.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's why I think it's such a tool for horror, which is weird because, you know, RPG Maker is not made for horror games. It's made for RPGs.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of became the RPG or the horror game machine for a little while when other engines were not accessible.
Yeah. The accessibility is the main thing.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do? Use Unity and Unreal in 96? You don't have the money. It doesn't even exist yet. But yeah, that's why I think it's mostly used by indie developers. But when it comes to like how punishing those are, I don't know, man. I don't know if that type of design is just
palatable for like a large audience.
Yeah.
Like, because it's not like they kill you.
Yeah, I don't think it's good, if I'm honest. Like I that playing those games, the stories are fantastic. Like, it's a great time to play those stories. But at any moment you can just die because of bullshit. You know, that's not fun.
As a person who writes about games, I feel like I'm compelled to like develop a language to talk about these kinds of games when I'm reviewing, so I don't just call them bullshit. Because, you know, I tried selling Little Goody Two Shoes to a number of people, and a couple of them picked it up, and they were like, "Okay, I bounced off like the first day or the second or third day," and it's like, yeah, that's happened to me.
Surprising. Yeah, you have to get into the like the most specific mindset of all time.
Yeah,
your brain's got to be in the niche mode.
But I respect it at the same time, because having played so much AAA slop lately, or like the result of filtered, funneled, and focus tested design, that these experiences start being very interesting just by comparison. Like, oh man, someone's actually trying to do anything.
If you were a little bit pretentious, would you call it friction?
Well, yeah, they provide friction. Though I will be quick to, in case anyone's assuming this, who is listening, I want to be clear that Little Goody Two Shoes is not like an indie project per se.
No, it's published.
It came
by,
from
Square Enix.
Exactly. So like Pocket Mirror, its predecessor, is an indie project from that lineage. But again, yes, and a Square Enix initiative specifically for smaller, like less oversight publication, but still, yeah, there's still money, and it's opulent.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah, and I liked that the team leaned into it. You know what I mean? Like we got the fucking money. This game is all about pretty looking, fucking beautiful shit. Let's go.
Speaking of friction in games, sorry, I was about to fucking move us.
Oh no,
that's
a great.
I wanted to talk about
The train wreck.
Dude, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful fucking yes, absolutely. Let's talk about.
I wanted to talk about frictional games and their impact that they had on indie horror games.
One of the biggest horror releases of all time.
From a descent into madness and to collect my 8 pages. It's
Well, I mean, even before that, they were doing Penumbra, right? And that was like their first it was like kind of out the gate, right?
It was out the gate, but it was not the same amount of success.
No, absolutely
though.
not.
That's for sure.
In terms of like what they were trying to do and go for,
It was unique.
it was super unique.
Never been seen before.
Yeah, like first person games before that were seen, that's Doom, that's Halo, whatever. It's not like, to do a game that has little to no combat, I guess.
It doesn't have combat though. That's the thing.
Penumbra has
Does Penumbra have combat?
I can't actually remember if it
I don't know much about Penumbra. I don't know as much about Penumbra as I do about Amnesia, and I also don't know that much about Amnesia.
They got that fish monster in there.
There's a fish monster.
Yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, Brendan, you've got to be the Amnesia expert in the call, surely.
Hello, everybody. My name is
Popsicle
Brendan.
Savior.
Let's talk.
I was gonna say, wouldn't it be around Popsicle Savior?
It would have actually. So when Amnesia: The Dark Descent,
yes,
right. When Amnesia: The Dark
2010.
Descent came out, I
That's
was making
2010.
Let's Plays in 4:3 on my CRT monitor as Popsicle Savior.
Yes.
That was right before I had my Markiplier encounter and it stole my life with the witch's curse. Yeah.
True.
So I haven't played Amnesia: The Dark Descent in a long, long time. Probably the best person to talk about it in the podcast would be Mandy.
Yes.
The absolute expert.
He made a fucking video on it.
But not only is like The Dark Descent such a good game atmospherically, and it changed the landscape, but also it's one of the first times that I can remember that it was not just due to the game itself, but also due to reactions of the game propelling it to even greater heights. Like it's one of the first times I've seen an entire community be formed around people playing horror games in such an extensive way.
Absolutely.
The puzzles, the monsters, the food, the water, the atmosphere,
the food, the water.
Well, dude, I haven't played this game in like 15 years, so you got to give me like a
Same. I mean, it's been
14 years since, or 13 or 14 years since I played Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Yeah.
So I remember the fish monster. I remember losing myself to the madness, and I remember yelling things into a broken Turtle Beach headset.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the modding scene was fucking insane. Like the so many maps, so many like different ways to play this specific game, challenge maps, whatever.
And so many goddamn Markiplier fan cams exist because of this game, and
so many games exist because of it.
It's so many games.
Outlast. I mean, Slender, the 8
Man,
pages,
bro.
which is
Slender,
crazy.
it's still insane that Slender got like an update like last year.
What?
Slender got a movie.
Yeah, they got an update. Slender: The Arrival.
What? Why? Oh, the Arrival. Okay, not the original 8 pages.
Not the original 8
okay.
pages one. The one that came after the 8 pages one. Yeah, Slender: The Arrival got an update after like 10 years. It was weird.
Oh, collect my 8 pages.
Collect my 15 fucking pages. Collect my 15 this. Collect my 18 that. I think overall Amnesia was a good boon for horror gaming because it opened up the
100%.
door for so many games, but also I am remiss if I don't mention the goddamn amount of sheer and utter crap that persisted in its wake.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh my god, 100%. We got so much crap.
We were talking about Bloober earlier, right? And like, I'm so glad that they've like come out with a banger.
Oh, Layers of Fear.
Oh, dude, Layers of Fear isn't even really Amnesia inspired though. It's more fucking PT.
Do you know the one that I was gonna point to is Blair Witch? I don't know if anyone's played the Blair Witch.
Oh,
I played
my
Blair
God,
Witch. We played
that
it for
fucking
Painhole.
Painhole. It was so bad. Oh,
Me when I'm Bloober Team and I try to make a game that isn't about cycles of guilt. Okay, let's do it about a dog and Blair. Oh, sorry, I fell into the cycles of guilt again. Sorry, bro.
Oh, I'm so guilty.
But yeah, it's interesting because it's like being able to, as a developer or like from Amnesia: The Dark Descent, to pick out what made that game so good and such a hit is like so difficult and nebulous, right? Because it's like there was so many different things going on in that game. It's interesting to see, you know, what came from that and what developers like latched onto as like what we would pull and stuff into that.
Lantern oil as a resource, collecting pages, running from monsters.
Lantern oil?
But instead of lantern oil, I've got a fucking VHS camera with batteries that I find around the place.
Outlast.
Outlast and Amnesia go into the horror problem of like, and this is a problem with games inspired by us and games that are like modern, is like, and this is probably, I think, one of the hardest things when it comes to horror games is I have this brain now where I need to immediately go and set out and see the creature, find the creature, and then get jump scared by the creature. And Outlast is a video game where I saw the big guy, interact with the big guy, got killed by the big guy, and then I just literally smoothed around the entire game, never stopping to move, just so I could like, not afraid anymore.
To be fair, also, the Outlast guys, they're not that, you know, they're kind of...
Okay, but as somebody who didn't grow up on horror media, as somebody who's a big fucking baby, Outlast was my first like horror game that I played and beat after Amnesia, where I was like, I am terrified of this big chunky guy. I have to run from him. And that was the first time my brain like clicked. He's a video game character. I could just run up to him and de-immerse myself, and then I can get through this. And then I beat the game, and I was like,
depersonalize now.
I can depersonalize. Like Outlast helped me reach depersonalization and become a sociopath. Yeah, that's the...
Now I walk up to strangers in the street at night.
Yeah, I do. I start hitting people, dude. It's awesome.
Hey man, you got any batteries?
I think maybe the best thing to come out of Amnesia and the Outlast pipeline, and this is a weird one that I've just started playing recently, is Alien Isolation.
Oh yes,
we're like getting far a bit from.
No. I'm gonna segue back into Mascot Horror. Don't worry, we're
yeah,
don't worry, we're not done yet, bitch.
No.
I just wanted to mention I've been playing Alien Isolation. I played it once for a couple of hours, and I love that you can't. There are so many moments you can't cheese. As somebody who has been like eating and consuming garbage horror content for the past like year or two, I love that you have to actually stop and think and like react to the alien. And it's a game that I have not felt playing Alien Isolation. Now I haven't felt this way since I played Amnesia: The Dark Descent. But speaking of a Dark Descent, let's talk about the pivot from Amnesia into Five Nights at Freddy's. Mascot Horror.
Man, I'm going to be honest. That was beautiful, Brembus.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of the Ave Maria of Five Nights at Freddy's.
The Ave Maria of Freddy's. Yeah, this is, we're going into my biggest blind spot because I just don't find those games interesting at all.
I think from, just talking about the first three FNAF games that came out like, the kind of like right in a spade, I think that I really enjoy thinking of how I would have enjoyed them way more when they came out, because thinking about like everything was starting to kind of be built off Amnesia, Outlast, Slender, like these kind of like run-ems around collecting pages games, and then FNAF came and said, fuck off, sit down, look at a camera, get jump scared. Like it literally streamlined the dopamine directly to your brain. And it's interesting in a way to see how it's evolved from Five Nights at Freddy's 1 all the way up until I just recently played Security Breach, into Ban into Poppy, and how Mascot Horror still has so much room to grow. And it's also interesting to think like going from FNAF, where it was very unique when it came out, like how you would like do the puzzles, figure out like the RNG of the characters jumping up, figuring out the way that characters were controlled so that you could avoid them or take care of them, into now Mascot Horror games are being made, instead of being influenced just by FNAF, they're being made to be more like Amnesia, or just right back into the collect my fucking pages shit. Like Poppy Playtime 3 is literally BioShock Infinite, the Mascot Horror game without a gun.
I do want to talk about something when it comes to the Mascot Horror genre, and it is something that I think it's the reason why I just can't get into it. I just don't think it's compelling horror at all. Like the stories and everything. Like when I and this is a me thing, and this is basically me, like, just because I do want to understand why these games are so popular and why these games mean a lot to a lot of people. But to me, like, they just don't seem to have any of the empathy factor that makes horror so compelling to me. Like I was saying at the beginning.
How many times did you go to a Chuck E. Cheese as a kid?
What the fuck?
No, serious. How many times did you go to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid?
We don't have those.
Did you ever go to a place with animatronics?
We don't have those.
It will not hit. I'll be weird. I think it's a weird bit, but I think it.
Like, I understand that for some people it's scary. Like, animatronics are inherently scary.
It's nostalgia as well, right? And like,
it's about the nostalgic into the beyond. Like, it's not as like deep a thread as you would want it to be. Like, it's not just like a fear of the dark, a fear of
I feel like this is more a problem with me.
Think about it this way, right? Like, imagine you're 8 years old, you're at Chuck E. Cheese, you're watching the big rat man do a little dance, and then he starts stuttering and like malfunctioning and go As a little 9-year-old, that's gonna freak you the fuck out and like stay in your mind, right?
Not
like
the rat man.
The rat man.
Have you ever gotten stuck in have you ever gotten stuck in a place too? Because like,
like
that rap's right.
Like, where are we going anymore?
Okay, FNAF is weird in that there are two reasons why it's popular and successful, right? And the first part is that nostalgic horror of like, if you had an experience akin to this, if you ever thought about this animatronics
it's
in America as well.
It's
empathy of the nostalgia,
empathy of the that specific feeling,
and then two, it's because it's a constant stream of jump scares into the content creation machine. Like, I know that sucks, that absolutely sucks, and I'm not going to defend it in any way, but genuinely,
I just groaned so hard. I think I literally blew a hole in the wall, man.
If FNAF didn't have the content creation machine behind it, it probably would not be as big as it ended up being. It was lightning in a bottle for this specific. It's such a weird genre to get as popular as it is because it's such a lightning in the bottle phenomenon. It'll never happen again. Like, in that it'll happen again with something else, but it'll never happen again to FNAF. It's just one of those things. Like, as a kid, why the hell did we have silly bands? Why the hell are kids watching Markiplier say, "Is that a bite of 87?" Like, it is literally just a flash in the pan, like lightning in a bottle, and it's holding on for dear life. And this is also emblematic of like the stories that are being told in every Mascot Horror game, like fucking Band, Poppy's Playtime, 123 Slaughter Me Street, literally any FNAF clone. Listen, dude,
he's cooking.
I'm cooking. All right, let me fucking finish. Every goddamn story and every goddamn game that ends up being they're turning the kids into creatures, except for My Friendly Neighborhood, which is Muppet Horror, and Muppet Horror doesn't hit as hard because they don't delve fully into the idea of Muppet Horror, even though the gameplay in My Friendly Neighborhood isn't that bad. The problem that I have with Mascot Horror as a whole is that it has yet to fully evolve from that they're turning the kids into goddamn creatures. The second that it does, the second that it can evolve from that and grow from that and build more into a what if Mr. Rogers was scary, look at Amanda the Adventurer, where it's like we're delving into like instead of like mascots at the Chuck E. Cheese, it's mascots on the TV. What if Elmo fucking killed you? What if Mr. Rogers tried to fucking kill you is a movie that came out recently. Mascot Horror needs to expand and grow big and around and kind of escape these confines that it has. Before it actually like grows. And I think that once there's a good Mascot Horror game, I'm saying it, once there's a good one, because I do agree with you, I think the games play like shit, but I think they're an interesting, unique experience, even though they play like shit. Once there's a good Mascot Horror game, like, I think the peak will be reached and it'll be cool to see what happens next. But Mascot Horror is kind of falling by the wayside. Now the big deal is PSX Horror.
Imagine this.
Yeah.
Freddy Fazbear, but he looks like PlayStation 1 Hagrid, and he's and there's a fucking PS1 sound like 16-bit fucking audio track in the background.
When I have two dinners in front of me, my two dinners are Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and I look and say, well, I'll have a bite of that, and I'll have a bite of that, and I'll have a bite of that, and that'll work out perfectly fine, right? Like, fucking, I can take the ink ribbons and put them over here, and everybody loves fucking limited saves, right?
For me, this specific niche that we are in right now of survival horror, PSX and Nintendo 64, whatever, with like, this is me core, bro. I'm like very happy right now. This is stuff I love. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, all that. I guess we could trace back the like specifically PSX horror to maybe puppet combo, because that's where I remember seeing it at first with like do you remember the Babysitter Bloodbath game that came out in 2013?
No.
Yeah, it was like very Silent Hill inspired, very PSX game. That's where I remember it. But right now we're like seeing it with Signalis. We're seeing it with
Crow Country.
Fucking Crow Country. What else? There's so many. It doesn't stop.
Let's see. I literally have played a ton. There was a Steam demo that I played that is very interesting.
Heartworm?
No, not Heartworm. I played that one a while ago and I bounced off it. I should try it again though. It was a Steam Next Fest demo that I played. I think it's like Sorry We're Closed, and that's an interesting take on PSX horror into Killer 7, Killer is Dead territory.
Yo, what? That's really interesting.
So it's like juxtaposing the kind of like neon sweary like cool aesthetic with the Silent Hill grunge aesthetic in a very interesting way, and I'm kind of excited to see the full game in November. But speaking of like PSX horror in general, like there's so much crap I've played. It's
oh dude, same. It's I'm really happy where we're at right now, because we're in a position where indie game development is so accessible now that we're starting to see stuff that's varied instead of mostly the same thing again and again with varying quality. Because right now, the trend is PSX horror, but even just in that specific niche,
I just had a thought, because you're right. Like, this horror that we're getting is like increasingly like based on people, increasingly aging people's nostalgias. So there's going to be a point where we get to like Xbox 360 with chunky ass horror.
I've been saying it. I've been seeing
Xbox 360 indie games recently, and it's been pretty cool. Like there's
a pirate one that's coming out.
Yes, and there's one that just came out called Gory Cuddly Carnage. Not really horror, but it's an indie game that's like meant to emulate those Xbox 360 games, and it's really fucking
connect nostalgia. And we get what was that? What was that? What was that fucking? No. I don't know if it was Silent Hill or.
Oh my God! Rise of Nightmares.
Oh no! Rise of Nightmares. Yeah. That's the next fucking the next pull.
The next big thing.
Yeah. What I really think about with PSX horror and why I think it's really interesting as a genre is how much of it went from like Resident Evil, Silent Hill inspiration to okay, but what if we did Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but it's polygonal with a VHS filter?
It's Ouroborosing a bit. It's cannibalistic.
No, it's cannibalistic. Yeah. Well, it's because it's cannibalizing like Puppet Combo into like there's like Puppet Combo. Instead of being inspired by the original PSX horror is getting inspiration from itself.
Yes.
So it's consuming itself.
That's why I think it's interesting, because we're seeing iteration on iteration on iteration, and
it's like cloning a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone. Yeah, it's getting really weird.
We're in a weird position where Poop Killer is back, baby.
Oh, Poop Killer 1 through Origins into 10.
They have
You can play. Well, I think there's Fart Killer now, actually.
Yes. Finally, a game for the rest of us.
And this dwells back into like it's weird that PSX is like horror as a genre has fallen so hard into it exists almost in effort to create content for other people, right? Like it's interesting to look at PSX horror now versus like 2015 when I think Power Drill Massacre first came out, where now so much PSX horror is made in effort to get a YouTuber to play your game so people go and download it and talk about it and then give you money maybe for your next project that can be an actual big experience. And I think the pipeline is fun and interesting, but it does resolve in a lot of crap.
Yes.
Like Slide in the Woods is neat, but then like you got to play Tekke Moonlight Dread, Egg Fried Rice, the Fears to Fathom games, which a bunch of YouTubers play that are like low polygonal and quote unquote PSX horror, but they're all written like dog ass with giant like gritty jump scares that break your goddamn ears, and they're just not great, but I appreciate the effort because even playing bad games in the genre make you appreciate the good games more.
Oh, for sure.
I also think aesthetically, I don't know if it's just because I'm literally the target demographic for all of these games. Like, you know, I'm at that age where it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. But also, like, there's just something about the lack of detail that you get from that style of graphics that makes, I guess it's like, you know, a part of like fear of the unknown kind of thing. And like, that doesn't you can do like really interesting stuff that might not specifically translate to like, you know, hyper realistic graphics or like the latest engines and stuff like that. I was like looking at like screenshots of stuff of like, you know, Stay Out of the House or something like that, and looking at the cornfield in that game, and I'm like, man, you know, that's just a flat 2D texture, but because of, you know, the stylings of it and how it looks in the scene, I'm like, man, that looks creepy as hell. Like, even like grass textures, like not being able to make out like the details of the grass, and it's like blocky and black and stuff like that. You're like, I'm in this unknown place that is like, you know, unknowable, I guess.
What I feel like I have this related to that. I have this disconnect where the more realistic the graphics get, like the more ultra realism it gets, the less connected I feel to it. Like the closer we get to more like human, the less I like it. And that's something that I think that PSX Horror as an aesthetic does very, very well, is I'm more immersed because it looks less like me.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like reading a book. It's more like playing a game. It's the more that something looks more akin to human, the more I'm just like, oh, okay, like I'm playing the next fucking like Ubisoft, collect my 30 thingamabobs, go up this tower, like jump over here, grab over here. And I even had that problem with like modern Silent Hill 2 reboot, where like, yeah, I liked it. I was scared maybe once because of some of the enemy like AI, but otherwise I was just like, okay, I like this is nice, I like the vibe, I like the it's kind of like walking through a house and going, oh wow, that's neat, that's a neat little thing, like going through a museum and pointing out cool things rather than like being fully immersed and you know, being actually at the scary cabin with the chainsaw killer man. And I think that PSX and services that aesthetic, because of that disconnect, you're more connected. Like I don't know how to explain it well, but that's how dubious do be for me.
Yumeniki, that was the one that you're talking about. I was looking at the screenshots because you were talking about the
Yumeniki.
It was like they did a remake or something like that.
They did a platformer remake.
Yes. So I was looking at the art style difference. There was like this one monster in the screenshots, which is like this multicolored thing. And then I look at it when it's like,
yes, I love
so
it.
like when it's in that, you know, like pixel art style, it's hard to grasp exactly what it is, right? And it's like, unknown. But then, you know, when they've like drawn it out and like looks, looks like, you know, rounded edges and stuff, I'm like, okay, now it's definable. Like now I can like, see its shape and understand what it is. It's like less scary, I guess, and like less doesn't have the same kind of appeal, like I think.
Yeah,
that's it. That's horror games now.
Yeah, no,
they're all PlayStation ones. You can't do anything about it. It's actually I did wanted to point out, like, it is interesting how I think the indie games inspired like a lot of the AAA development, and like Resident Evil 7, I think you can see
the influence from like Outlast, but like also
not Outlast. I meant what's the? I mean Outlast, because of the camera. Yeah.
I
was going to say Amnesia, but the camera segments are pretty much just Outlast.
It's actually interesting to see how Resident Evil 7 and Village feel like there are segments in all of them that are inspired by different genres of horror. Like Resident Evil Village, I always say feels like a love letter to Resident Evil in general. And then 7, it's like you're going through the beginning, you're getting outlasted, you're going through Peepaw, you got to run away from Peepaw and then fight Peepaw on top of the Millennium Tower, and then you're getting up into the mom bug area where you're like, fuck, I hate bugs. Then you're getting into the Saw area. It's if I had a better brain, I'd be able to objectively talk about this in a more interesting fashion, but instead, since I'm stupid poo-poo, I'm just gonna say, guys, freaking cool.
Yeah, it is freaking cool.
Freaking cool.
That's right.
That's all I gotta say.
That's all I gotta say.
And this with a jump scare.
Yeah.
Put up the Foxy jump scare. Green screen jump
Hey,
Thanks so much for listening. This episode would not have been possible without the help from our patrons, such as Alan Diver, Bland But Funny, Boopaloo, Brain Soup, Brass, Cassandra Crash, Chips, Chris Chapman, Diamante Yogurt, DX Studios, Edward McMillan, Eric Scott Gillies, Ethereal, Geef, Generic Phoenix, Guy Beam, Invictus Echo, Jaybird, Lambda Man, Leo the Geotech, Mr. Starchy, Mr. Shirt, Pharmacy Fruit Bat, Preston Husk, Random Diamonds, Rat Supreme, Ryan Rocket, Spherical May, The Frost Ace, Toku Terra, Ulbert, Will9455, and Woodstock. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.